All right, y'all. There's been a lot of back and forth talk with all nation about the state of our football team, and I've given my thoughts. Some of y'all have been nice enough to share your thoughts with me. Thank you for that. But let's listen to VFL Jason Swain give his thoughts. These are going to be some clips from his show called The Swain Event, where he's going to talk about a lot of different things. Number one, if y'all not already subbed to his channel, y'all need to go do that. For me personally, I like to listen to people who know what they're talking about. He's definitely one of them, obviously, because he did play. He's still close to the program. Like, that's where I get my information from. That's just how I like to kick it. But yeah, I would say that it's worth a listen for sure to go over to his channel, check this stream out. And, this is cut up. I don't want to take things out of context. I'll give the context to you if I feel like it needs to be added. But again, if you feel like you're missing something, go back and check out this whole video and make sure that you do like and subscribe to the channel. But I want to hear what he has to say, and then I'm going to give my thoughts kind of based off of what he does say. And actually, just to let you know, just to add some context for the first part of this, we're going to start off, they're going to be talking about how Dante Thornton, one of the knocks on him coming out of college was, lack of a route tree and things like that. So that's how things will get kicked off.
Casters are talking about how essentially Tennessee's route tree is very, very limited when Dante Thornton gets drafted.
I mean, it's been talked about for years. It's what hurt Jalen Hyatt. It hurt Jalen Hyatt more than Tillman because Tillman's toolbox, his skill set translates to the NFL better than the Jalen Hyatt's. And at the time, folks probably thought that was the craziest thing ever because they looked at the award that he won and the yards that he had and the touchdowns that he had. But that's just the truth. To be able to do this year in and year out and not have a year where you go 7-5 or 8.
Actually, I'm going to pause it right there because that is something that I've heard a lot from casual fans. That, oh, well, this player won all these accolades or this player had all these yards and all that. That doesn't necessarily translate to the NFL. They're not so much looking at that. They're looking at, hey, do you have the proper skill sets and things like that to be able to find success on this level? It's totally different. So I wanted to pause it right there just to let y'all know. And I think we said the exact same thing. Listen, Jalen Hyatt, we feel like he was probably going to go pretty high just because of, he did put up some crazy numbers. But if you look at him versus Cedric Tillman looked like the better overall NFL talent.
4, and then it takes 2 or 3 to win 10. To do this year in and year out, where every year, like, there's a real run a championship, you got to be putting dudes in the league. Look at your competitors. And it goes back to eval, recruiting, development. Ben, as happy as I am for Dante Thornton, and this is no 100% fault of Dante Thornton. Dante Thornton should have been drafted higher. 6'5", 4.30. When I think about receivers who 6'5", running that fast, I think about DK Metcalf, who, coming out of Ole Miss, I remember the scout report on him, underdeveloped. Not a great route runner, just a freak athlete. We'll have to work on running routes, and he improved and got better at that during his time.
So this is something else that I've talked about. That's an excellent correlation that Jason Swain makes here, talking about DK Metcalf versus Dante Thornton. Now, Dante Thornton, like we said, he's the tallest, fastest wide receiver in NFL combine history. People will point to Randy Moss. Randy Moss ran a 4.25 on a handheld time. A 4.25 on a handheld is about a 4.50 on a laser. Dante just ran it on a laser, a 4.30 on a laser. So, yes, he's the tallest, fastest wide receiver that the NFL Combine has ever seen. Probably that the NFL has ever seen, period. So, the whole point here is, yeah, he should have gone higher. We talked about that. It was like, shoot, wouldn't be shocked after his great Combine showing if he doesn't go in the, second or third round just because of those numbers. Teams fall in love with that type of stuff. But, it's interesting that he didn't go as high as DK did. I think DK was, I think he went in the first round. So, why does that happen? We'll probably talk about that a little bit later on.
I'm in NFL. I think about Calvin Johnson, who ran a 4.36 in somebody else's cleats in 07. I watched it.
So Calvin Johnson, for those of y'all that might not know, he came in at 6'5", 237 pounds, and ran a 4.3 on a laser. That's ridiculous. For me, Calvin Johnson, just because of his size and his speed and all of that, could have been the best player to ever play football, ever. That's how talented he was. And obviously he stopped playing early, which was probably a very smart move on his part. But either way, right, this is what, like, he's mentioning Dante Thornton in that same conversation, not because necessarily Dante is going to be that sort of a player, but more so because he's that sort of a freak athlete. That's the whole point.
When you that big and you can run, that's freak level stuff. We've seen guys be drafted in the first round with those type of measurables. Well, the reason why Dante Thornton drafted in the fourth round because of what Louis Riddick talked about. So, as happy as I am for the guys that got drafted, it brings some questions about the guys who didn't get drafted. You have an offensive lineman that comprises so many experienced players. It was already a head scratcher of why they didn't get invited to the combine, and now they're getting drafted. They didn't get drafted. Like, you're recruiting against schools who are putting guys in the league, and they're going to use this stuff against you. But when he committed to Miami, and I look at
Okay, so Jason Swain is talking about Tennessee's offensive line, right? And how we had all these fifth, sixth, seventh year guys, and none of them, I don't think, have even gotten picked up yet. So that's a major red flag. And this is some of the stuff that I was thinking about with the whole Nico situation, right? With why it was such a big deal, with why it's not, oh well, we were really good last year. What is one player leaving gonna matter? Well, there's a lot of reasons that it matters, but just in context here, talking about players getting drafted, Nico was a guy that we knew was going to be first round. Now, I don't care what people, he's still probably going to go first round because, again, it's not really about the numbers. It's about the talent. Do you have the talent? If you have the talent, then teams are going to come after you, right? So that's big. And then also because, we've got these older guys that have been playing. We haven't been able to play some of our younger guys, especially with the offensive line. So those guys were starting over, some of those younger players. And it just looks like, man, Tennessee's not doing a good job of putting offensive linemen into the league. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to put as many people in the league as possible. So everybody that can help us get there, you want to try to hold on to them as much as possible. That is the biggest thing that we can do to find success. And now that we've shown with the offensive line, hey, man, these guys, they're not really going pro, but that's just what people are going to think, whether that's right or wrong. That's what they're seeing. So recently, none of our offensive linemen have gone pro. I think that Cooper Mays might have got picked up, or he's going to be at least trying out, right? Maybe he will end up getting picked up. That would be great, but I don't think anybody else is. So for the offensive line that, we have to bring up moving forward, why would they want to come here? See what I'm saying? Like, they're not going to want to come here, especially if the team takes a step back in 2025. If we take a step back on the field, it's like there's a lot of boxes that are being unchecked now. And that could set us back for a long time because you've got to be able to build up depth. Tennessee's still trying to catch up to some of these bigger programs, Georgia's, Alabama's, and all those guys. Still trying to catch up from a talent perspective. This year could potentially set us back, but I'm gonna let Swain finish.
the portal of
My bad. I hate to keep on pausing it, but here he's talking about Keelan Marion. He's talking about, hey, thought that he was going to be coming up, and now he's just kind of, going through how he felt once he realizes that, oh, he's not going to be coming up.
Of receivers, I was speechless. I was disappointed. There's a receiver from McNeese State that we are not in position to get. That player looks like he's going to OU. The same OU team that this past season, their offense was offensive. How bad it was. They got a transfer quarterback that everyone's high on. They went out and made some big hires with their administration. They brought in, Jim Nagy, who's the official GM, and OU has been a attractive place for transfers in the last couple of months. And here we are, no addition at the receiver position in the transfer portal. And I do not understand. Maybe the quarterback situation scared receivers off, which I understand because receivers want to play with quarterbacks that can get them the ball. So the uncertainty there at quarterback may be a question for transfer receivers, which I understand. I totally do. I committed to Tennessee. I didn't know who my quarterback was going to be for the next 3 years. I just had faith that they would have someone that could throw me the ball. And so, but I get it though. But the fact is, we needed a receiver. There was no getting around that. You need some experience. You need someone with maybe a different skill set in a room to balance out what you already have. You know, for so long, there's a torch that was passed from older guys to younger guys. You know, before me, it was a torch that was passed from Dante and Kelly Washington to Tony Brown and company, and then Tony Brown passed that on to us, and then we passed it along to Lucas Taylor and those guys, and they passed it, and it kept getting passed and passed from the older guys to the younger guys, and it happened when Carl Pickens played here, and it happened when Peerless Price played here, and Joey Kent. Like, that thing was passed. Okay, you want every room to have a dynamic where even you have a young, talented player, he's at least learning how to do things, how to carry himself, how to create habits, how to practice, how to hold himself accountable. Like, talented young players still have to follow. I just feel like Mike Matthews, it's a lot on him to be the leader of the receiver group, to be the saver of the receiver group, as a true sophomore that really has the reps of a freshman. And so there's some concern. You look at the competition and where.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause it right there because there is a lot for us to unpack. So number one, you can tell that he's frustrated. He's like, that's why I feel him, because that's how I feel. I'm so frustrated with this whole situation. He's almost just like, I can't even believe that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we in this situation, but we are in this situation, and Tennessee needed to add a transfer portal wide receiver. Now, this is a guy that played at Tennessee. Obviously, he was he's a VFL, played great for us. One of my favorite players. He's telling you that Tennessee needed to add another wide receiver, especially a veteran. And, it's almost kind of like laughable that, we're seeing some of these teams that had really bad offenses last year. Now, man, they're going out and getting everybody in the offenses taking a step forward. Tennessee's offense wasn't, maybe the best last season. We're taking steps backwards. That's how things feel. So it's very frustrating to see us end up in this situation. And then he's talking about how, who's the veteran inside of that room? Who are the young guys that we know are really talented? Who are they looking up to? The only other old guy inside of that room is Brazel, which I think that Brazel can play well, but we don't really have a guy that's a proven, you know what I'm saying, that's proven, that's put up a bunch of numbers and things like that. We don't have that person for us to look up to, even if it's not at Tennessee, even if it's not necessarily big numbers, just somebody that is proven. I think that it's something to be said about having some more veterans inside of these rooms. But I'm going to let him finish up here.
They have guys drafted. You look at Georgia, 13 players drafted, Texas, 12. Ole Miss did not get into the college football playoff, 8. Alabama did not get into the college football playoff, 7. LSU did not, 7. Florida, 7. South Carolina, 5. Tennessee, 4. Which, hey, in a way, that could be spun as positive. And look what we're doing with less guys getting to the league and still being able to go to the playoffs. You think recruits look at that? You think recruits care more about that than getting to the league? No, they care about getting to the league. And so if you can show, hey man, we getting dudes.
Okay, so that's going back to my point. I'll pause it here real quick. These players, and I just feel like as a fan base, we need to understand what really matters to these kids, because that will help us to, if we're going to be pushing any narratives, that'll help us to not push the wrong narratives. Because as fans, like, this fan base is so vocal that we make an impact. I think that we all know that. If you've been a Tennessee fan for long enough, you've seen the fan base make impacts on who we're going to hire, on the players that are going to stay, on the players that are going to leave. All of that, the fan base will do that. So you have to understand that it's not so much right now. It's not necessarily like the players aren't really looking at the wins and losses. They're looking at what can you do for me? It's pretty much always been that way. So don't take it like these kids are, doing something wrong. It's always been like that. They all like their number one goal is to make it to the next level. So the winning comes behind getting the players to the next level. All right.
The league. We're helping you reach your dreams. That's what's sellable in living rooms. That number has to be higher. Number one. There's been more and more talk about the need for Tennessee to hire a GM. We've had this conversation before where I said, hey, there's been a time and place where no teams had GMs, but they did a good job of eval, recruiting, and developing and managing the roster. If you have the right people around the head coach, it doesn't matter if you have a person with the title GM. Well, the reason why more and more fans and more people are talking about Tennessee needing to hire GM and why I'm more open-minded to it is because look at where we are with the portal and the lack of action in the portal to address positions on offense. What happened with the quarterback situation? Guys, that was a hot mess. It's affected everything. You see other programs are now running their organizations like an NFL organization. And it's not time. We should have been doing it. Hope that was the approach before, but like that's how you have to build this thing now. There's money involved. You have a salary cap, essentially. You have to determine the value of certain players. You have to pay them according to their value. You can't overpay for players. You can't underpay for players. You have to be really good about determining the value of the talent that you have or the talent that you're trying to get. Like you have to do that. And if it's out of whack, then your talent on your roster is going to be out of whack.
All right, so that's it. But yes, obviously, I agree with everything that he just said. Talking about Tennessee needing a general manager, you have to have it. It doesn't make any sense not to have one. And we can see, and we've looked at this several times now, the programs that actually have general managers, they're doing a lot better. Like as far as holding on to the talent that they need and then going out and getting more, because it's too much to put on a head coach's shoulders. Yes, there are probably several people that are doing a sort of a like GM role now, but they're not doing a good job. I don't think that they really know what they're doing. So what we have to do is go out and get someone that knows what they're doing. And I'm not trying to take a shot at anybody, but we are in a really, really tight spot because, for this year, we've lost some talent that we needed. We don't really have a whole lot of depth in certain spots where we need that depth at. There's a lot of youth that's going to have to play. So, yeah, man, we could look at this year and say we're going to let these young guys play, take those lumps, and then look towards next season. But there is still a bigger issue. And I don't know if this is exactly what Jason Swain is saying. I'm not trying to put words inside of his mouth, but I'll say it this way. For me, what I took from it is this. There are bigger problems going on with our university. There are some things that have to get fixed. We've got to put the correct people in the correct places so that moving forward, we will have a chance. If we don't go out and get somebody that knows what they're doing as a general manager, I don't care who it is, somebody that knows what they're doing. If we don't go out and do that portion of it, this will not be the last time that Tennessee's in a really bad spot in these windows. And we're heading into a season at the final hour where we, at least for me, feel like, hey, this is a playoff team. Now, all of a sudden, we don't know, we hope, we could see us not making it to a bowl game now. That happened within a matter of weeks. That could happen again. That's why you've got to put the correct people in place so that we can have all this, have these things situated correctly. It starts with going out and identifying the high-level talent from the high school level, bringing up guys that can turn into NFL draft picks. Obviously, the coaches have got to, get the players better. You've got to put them in the correct spots so that they can get drafted, okay? But we've got to be able to hold on to this roster so that the product on the field is good enough that we are, actually fighting for the playoffs and fighting for those championships. But those are my thoughts, and that's it for this show. Y'all, please do us a very big favor. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace. Thanks for watching, and please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel because that keeps us growing inside of the YouTube algorithm. And if you did like this video, here's another one that you might also enjoy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.